Hey everybody, it's Angela and I am back with another process video, and I'm going to use these two really old Sizzix dies that are a tulip and a butterfly. Actually, I don't wind up using the butterfly. It was just a little bit too large a scale for this layout, but I do use the tulips. And I'm using the Lakeside paper pad that I showed earlier, just a 6x6 paper pad and some vellum. And I've just cut the shapes out over and over again. And I had this picture of my stepson and their family that I wanted to scrapbook, and it has a lot of tulips in, and they're mostly in the red section of the field. So there was just mostly red and green in the photo, but I didn't want it to look too Christmassy. So I went ahead and cut a little the red, but it's more of a pinky red, and then for the green I used more of a soft teal green, and then I used some wood grain paper as well, and then of course the vellum. And I'm going to take these to my sewing machine and run a stitch down the center, and that way I can kind of fold up these edges of these layers because it's kind of a layered die. And also on the butterflies I can kind of poof up the wings a little bit, but like I said, I don't wind up actually using them on this layout. But it was fun to just sew those down the center, and it was great to use a die. That's a really old Sizzix die cut, like one of the more original ones they did. I think like around 2001 or so is when those came out. So yeah, and I don't usually get rid of my die cuts because even though they're an older style, I feel like with newer supplies and newer current techniques, I can always change it up to make it look more fresh. And so even though I'm using an older die, and some of the older dies aren't as intricate of a cut as the new ones they have, yeah, I can still use it with a fresh white background with trendy colors and sewing and vellum and make it look more like today's technique. So yeah, so I don't usually purge my die cuts too much because I wind up with my tools, I wind up figuring out a way to use them over and over again. So there is my photo, and I just matted it on a bunch of paper from the Lakeside paper pad. And now I'm just trying to figure out how I want to use these tulips and how many of them I'd like to use on here. And I'm going to go with this kind of diagonal layout, and going from the upper left corner to the bottom right. And the piece of paper that I'm using as my background is from Memorandum, which I think is a pink paisley paper. And then I have this one, I found only two stamps in my stash and that had tulips on them. One was this Studio 112, which is like I think it's like the Joann's Dollar Spot kind of stamps. And so I'm just using this Adirondack ink that's going to be, I tested it here, it's going to be really light and subtle, which is what I wanted. Just something to kind of lend a little more texture to that background, and it really matches. You can kind of see there's a grid pattern and a little bit of an alphabet and stuff already on that paper, and so I wanted this to kind of blend in with that and look like it was originally maybe printed on that paper. And yet it kind of, again goes with my theme. And I was surprised to find I only had two things that had tulips on them in my stash as far as stamps go. Yeah, I looked through all my flower stamps thinking, oh yeah, I probably got a ton of them, and yeah, I only had two. So I'm just going to go and add that in a couple places where I think it'll show. And I wind up actually covering quite a bit of it up, and then going back later, and you'll see towards the end I go back later with the other little tulip stamp that I have and just add a few more in the background. So I'm just kind of cleaning my stamp off there. So it was great to be able to use my die cuts and use some stamps on this layout, use some of the tools that I have in my scrap room already. So this is a little sandwich tin or sandwich plastic thing of Maggie Holmes And I think those are from the confetti line. And then I also have another little sandwich container with some Dear Lizzie here that I pulled out, just things that had the kind of teal and reddish colors that I'm using in this. Just kind of seeing what I have to work with. And Maggie Holmes has some gold, and I tried putting gold in with this, and I thought about it, but then it still, again, it started looking too Christmas-like, and this is a spring photo. So if they would have been in like the yellow tulip section, I should have told them, if you do your photo op, you need to do it in the yellow or, other color tulip section, but they only had pictures from the red tulip section. So, and this is the Dear Lizzie one. So yeah, I need to, tell all the kids to, color coordinate their photo ops for me. Somehow I don't think that would work. So anyhow, so I'm just using all these kind of teal pieces, seeing what I like. And I like that Maggie Holmes frame that says all together because it's all 4 of them. And I think that's, I put the word family over that later. It says family all together, and that's pretty much my title. So there's not a big title on this page. It's more of a subtle title because this was just kind of a, a spontaneous photo op because they went to the Tulip Festival, and, it's just such a lovely place to take photos. So I'm liking that, and I'm going to go ahead and start putting some of these items down. And layer this tag. There's going to be a little bit larger cluster on the bottom left or bottom right hand side of the photo. It's going to be my larger cluster, and then a smaller one on the upper left. And then that was one of the Dear Lizzie pieces on that upper left corner. So I'm just trimming my frame to fit in there. And I really like how the tulips turned out, because they give you some graduated sizes for the top that I could layer and sew down. It really lends a lot of texture to this page because there's not a lot of other textured things on here. So the layers of the tulip flowers and the sewing down them lend most of the texture for this page. So I'm just trying to kind of mix up the patterns of the tulips and, put some of the green in each section and the red, and not have, like colors right next to each other. So that's kind of what I'm trying to think about as I'm positioning them. And so I'm going to go ahead and start gluing these down. And I think I glue most of them flat, except for one of them, which I put up on foam tape, which I think is this one. Yep, I just grab a little bit of foam tape. And again, that lends a little bit of height and dimension to the page as well. And as you can see there, as I'm putting all this down, I'm slowly covering up more and more of my stamping. There's still little parts of it that, peek out here and there, but I go back and add to that later. So yeah, I'm really liking the tulips that have the wood grain. Like that one has the wood grain stem on it, which is kind of cute. And then some of them have wood grain up at the top of the tulip for the flower part. I wasn't quite sure where to position this one, but I wanted to make sure it stayed in my kind of diagonal line. So I went ahead and put it there. And then I wanted to put a bow on this to lend more dimension, but all the bows that I had just weren't the right color. So I thought, well, I'll go to my die cuts again and I'm going to show you the dies, the bow dies that I use, and this is my system for remembering what dies I have. I just have them in this folder. There you can see I have 3 different bow dies to choose from, and I just went and cut a bunch of them out. What I don't use on this one, I'll just put in a packet of bows and keep them all together. And then of course I ran out of staplers, but you could see that folder I had with all my die cuts. What I did was I just laid my die cuts out on the floor and took pictures of them with my cell phone. And so I put like all my bow dies together and took a picture, all my cooking dies and took a picture, and I kind of grouped them like that, so that I know what I have. And then I just printed them out and put them in that folder, and I did the same thing with like all my dies that had matching rubber stamps, and then I did all my embossing folders, and I'm gonna do that with all my rubber stamps as well, because I don't have a huge collection. It's not so big that I need to like make an inventory on the computer or anything like that. Just pictures in a folder that I can kind of flip through really quickly works just fine. So here I'm using a little bit of washi tape. This is some thin washi that I got at the dollar store in a pack of, I think there was like 6 of them in a pack, and it's just these little red chevron arrows. So I'm just putting those in a few places. And you saw there that I just put a staple in the top of each of my bows just for another metal texture on there, and then glued them down. And then I have this jelly bean soup sticker sheet that has some scripty words on it. They were a little difficult to get off, and I think it must be a little bit older sheet because the adhesive wasn't great, so I wind up adding a little bit of glue to the back of it. But it's just the word family, which I wanted to kind of use as my title. And then I like how here the all together kind of fit right between the 2 descending letters of the F and the Y. And so I'm going to go ahead and position it there, and I'm just adding a little bit of the Scotch Quick Dry to the back. And then I realized that I didn't have the dot for the I on there, and yeah, it's so tiny. It was a little bit difficult to get off. And then I went to put some glue on it, and I dropped it. It's so tiny. I'm like, oh crap. But I did get it there, get it positioned on there with the help of that little dental pick. Those little picks come in so handy. I got it at Harbor Freight, a pack of like 6 of them. They're great for picking things up and positioning things and getting the backing off of your double-sided tape and all kinds of stuff like that. So then I also have these my mind's eye cut and paste letters, word phrase stickers that happen to be in the right color theme. So I'm just pulling a few of those to add in amongst my clusters. I find things like sweet and special, or sweet and memorable, or something like that, little words that kind of fit. And there's the only other tulip stamp I have. It's, yeah, that's, just one of those little woodblock stamps. So hey, I'll use it. And so I just stamp it all around with using that same ink. So it's really subtle. But you can still see it. And I just add it almost like splatter, just across the diagonal line there. Then I also have these, I think they're K & Company little heart stickers from last Valentine's when they were on sale. And I'm just adding those. They're little puffy stickers, little puffy hearts. I'm just adding some to the little tulips, to the leaves, or to the flowers, and dotting those around. And then I also have some enamel dots from my mind's eye, and I'm going to cluster those with some of the heart stickers. And then I think I'm going to call this layout done. I'm just cutting off the manufacturer's strip there on the bottom, which I'd forgotten to take off. And that is my finished layout. So thank you guys so much for watching. I had a lot of fun using this old die and, you know, doing a little bit of stitching on my layout, using some vellum, using stamps, and you know, just working with this theme. And I think it turned out really cute. So if you've got some of those really old Sizzix dies, don't forget to pull them out of your stash and try to use them in a new way. Make them look trendy again. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or anything, just leave me a comment below. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.